Dear colleagues, dear participants, dear friends, it is a great pleasure to welcome you in the name of the World Space Week Association in our third webinar in the Women in Space webinar series entitled The Airbus Guide to World Space Week. For the next hour, we will have a very interesting debate on how to organize World Space Week events from our very experienced organizers of World Space Week activities from Airbus. I would like them for joining us and thank our moderator, Mary Walmesly. I wish to thank Airbus for their great support of World Space Week since its beginnings. The dedication and time they are investing in World Space Week is truly admirable, and I'm grateful to have the opportunity to welcome them today and hear more about the amazing events Airbus is organizing over World Space Week every year. I would also like to thank them and for this opportunity for their support and organization of this webinar. We really appreciate it. We really appreciate our collaboration, and I'm looking forward to more events like this in the next year. Let me tell you more about our moderator. Mary is a senior communications advisor for space systems at Airbus, and she's a passionate believer in the importance of raising awareness of the benefits of space for life on Earth. Prior to this position, Mary spent a number of years as the employee of communications team within Airbus Defense and Space Division, with specific responsibility for space topics. Before her career at Airbus, she was the press relations and marketing manager for Paradigm Secure Communications, the first ever company to deliver space-based communications services for military operations. Mary started her career in the defense industry with the Linea Marconi systems, where she had 2 roles in PR and marketing. Mary has 2 daughters, to one of whom she has succeeded in passing off on her love of space with aspiration of becoming an astrophysicist. Thank you, Mary, for moderating today's webinar, and good luck to your daughter with her ambitions. It is especially because of girls like that we decided to dedicate the theme of World Space Week 2021 to women in space. Again, thank you everyone for joining us. Please ask questions in the chat function and enjoy this very interesting discussion. Mary, the floor is yours.
Thanks very much, Mariska. That was far too much about me. I want to tell you about my great colleagues who are here with us. Gil has worked in the space industry his entire career, and he's really devoted a huge amount of his time to inspiring future generations. So I'm delighted he can be with us today. Inma is here as part of a group of employees in southern Spain who plan really cool activities in their spare time to actually bring World Space Week to the center of Seville. And John is also passionate about bringing space to the masses. He's done an extensive outreach work, especially focusing on attracting girls and women to the industry, which is very fitting with this year's theme of women in space. So before I hand over to, we get talking with Gilles and Inma and Jean, I'd just like to explain a little bit about how Airbus approaches World Space Week. We've actually been involved and supporting since 2008, and as the years have gone along, we've got more and more employees involved. We've probably reached well over 100,000 school children, and that's because hundreds of our employees every year take the time to go and speak in schools, and they love doing it. I do it myself, and there is really nothing better than going into these classrooms and the kids get to ask you all the questions, including their favorite one about how do astronauts go to the loo. So that comes up every year. I'm sure my colleagues will agree. As we're quite a big company, I mean, we're speaking to lots of people, probably from big and small companies. As we're quite big, we actually have coordinators on each of our sites so that we can help people. And we've also got some presentations we've put together of all kinds of different themes for different age ranges. And we've actually shared these on the World Space Week website, including one on women in space for this year's theme. But I now really want to hear from you, John. You have built an amazing remote controlled rover. What gave you this idea?
Well, in typical engineer fashion, it was to solve a problem. Back in 2014, I went to Leicester Racecourse for a partial eclipse event with the BBC, and we took Bridget, the prototype ExoMars rover, with us. Bridget's quite an old version of the ExoMars rover prototypes now, and We got there in a van, quite a heavy logistical exercise, take Bridget to an event. And we got there with the van, put the ramps on the back of the truck and went to drive Bridget down. BBC were there filming, us unloading this high-tech space equipment off the van, and Bridget didn't work. Bridget had this habit of not working very well. And we spent a few days at this event. And then I was driving back to Stevenage with Bridget in the back of the van, thinking, I'm an engineer, I build things, I've got Raspberry Pis, I've got a workshop, I can build things. How about I build a small Mars rover? Maybe it's not anatomically correct for the ExoMars rover, but it's got 6-wheel drive, 6-wheel steering, cameras on the head, kind of things I can do with my nerdy robotics passion, and build something that the STEM ambassadors can use to take out to events, but very easily without all of the logistical overheads of taking a huge rover in the back of a van, chuck it in the back of a car. And it sort of went from there. And it's taken me a long time to grow and develop. Right at the start, I got a little bit of money from the early years careers team to give me some sort of seed funding, almost to buy a lot of the hardware that went into the rover, because it was quite expensive. And as you can see, it's behind me on the bench. The gold thermal blanket around it was made in Portsmouth by the team who make thermal blankets for satellites. I went in there and I bothered them, and they know me well enough to say, "Oh, we'll make you something, John." And I gave them a box, and they wrapped it, and they used it as an experiment for one of the apprentices to make something. And that's how it's sort of come together, and it's been evolving ever since. So it's one of those projects never finished. It's always changing. I've got new cameras on board now, and I'm really, really happy that last year with the lockdown, I was able to set it up remotely so people could drive it over the internet. So I had this thing in my garden, and I had people in Kenya driving it. So sending commands using the interface that's been written for it, and driving around the garden looking for life. Now my life is a little model of Groot that I stick in the garden, and they've got to try and find it. And it's really good fun. And the neighbors do wonder what the heck's going on in my garden sometimes, as I've got this little rover wandering around looking for things. But it makes me smile, and they see the smile on my face, and I think they realize that all is good in the world. It's just to expect it and move on, I think.
Excellent. Yeah. Excellent. Thank you. That sounds really cool. Perhaps we can move on to Inma, and you can tell us a little bit about what you and your colleagues have done in Seville.
Okay. Our Airbus Tablada site has participated in World Space Week since 2015. We are a group of volunteers, and during one day of the World Space Week, normally on Saturday, in an emblematic place in the center of Seville, we prepare a big event for a group of about 100 students for the school of Seville. The activities are designed for children between 7 and 10 years. We divide the students into 4 groups, and they carry out the activities. Some of them related to the motto of the World Space Week. Once the activities has finalized, a toy rocket is assembled by all the students. All the pieces of this rocket have been obtained during the group work.
Okay, and so what kind of activities do you do in these groups?
Okay, so for example, we do the Space Olympic. The game consists of a competition with 3 different activities, where each school will be divided into 3 teams of 8 children. The activities like a solar system race.
Oh, what's a solar system race? I like the sound of that.
We divide the children into teams. We have made foam balls. We have painting them with different sides, simulating each planet in the solar system. And we ask a question related to a planet, and they have to run to find the planet. If they get it right, they get the point, 1 point. Okay, we can add another element, such as a star or satellites.
That's such a great idea. Excellent. Yeah. And Gilles, I hear that you're into water rockets. Can you tell us about that?
Yes, I have one. I can show it.
Yes, please.
You see it? Without water today, but you know where to put your water. Here you have plastic fins, and the nozzle. You need also the key part is this tube with a small piece here in the nozzle, and the last important things you have it probably for your bicycle.
Ah, A bicycle pump, okay.
You fill the bottle with 1/3 of water, and then you increase the pressure above the water. And when the pressure is high enough, the rocket will lift off. Perhaps a word on safety. It seems to be a very small rocket with water, but the speed is high. I think when it lifts up, it's very, very high speed. So I recommend to use a launch pad. You see probably on one of the photos. I don't know if you can display the.
Yeah, I'm not sure if we can see the photos.
Okay, but you can use. You can build something to guide the rocket during the first meter. I recommend also to organize a campaign, a launch campaign, because here the toy will become really a rocket with the mothers, the father looking, countdown, and you need also to have a flight director. And with all the children with tens on rocket, it will be a very nice event. It's a starting point.
Yeah, and how do they? Sorry.
No,
how do you make the fins? What are the fins made of? Because we can see it's made with a bottle, the body.
Here it's a small plastic things. You can build it with a 3D easily with a 3D printer, but you can also use cardboard and stick it on the bottle. So what I want to explain also is that you can do this type of things with very simple material. You don't need to buy expensive things. It's a starting point to decide. And you could also put a larger bottle, 2, 3 bottles. So it's the starting point to build something with in the school with the teacher, with the children, and perhaps to try to have the highest speed, the highest altitude, or to decide to understand how it works. So action, reaction, the thrust, the weight, the drag, and optimize the rocket. So it's a starting point. If you want to go further, you can use here. It's a model rocket with real engine. And you hear me? Yes?
Yes, I think this one.
Yes. This type of rocket, so 200 kilometers per hour. So it's a real rocket. And here you can try to optimize also where do you put the fins? Can you increase the speeds? How do you build the parachute to recover the rocket? A lot of things. And I will say a very simple tool to catch the attention of the children and to start to discuss, including physics, mathematics, and other things, only with this type of. It looks like a toys, but it's clearly a tool to discover space.
Yeah, I mean, I think you showed us your advanced model there, the second one, but I think the first one definitely is quite easy to do. And I know personally, my kids, when they were younger, absolutely loved doing it because they joined one of your sessions. So it's very successful. If we could just move back to John, though, you talk about your trip to Leicester with the BBC. Where else does your rover get to appear?
Well, the rover, I take it lots of places. I've got a little logbook where I write down all of the interactions I've had, and I'm over 2,000 young people have seen the rover or had an experience with the rover. It's a number of places, actually. So in Portsmouth, Airbus Portsmouth, we support our local science centre, Winchester Science Centre, and every Space Week we do something with them. So I've taken the rover up there a few times, and I do one of my favourite things is just to drive it around on the floor, and I hide the controller so no one knows who's controlling it. And the young kids, they come running over. There's a robot, and I wind some of the parents up. I drive it over to the lunch areas, and I just sit there with the rover looking at them. And then as they look down, I move the eyes away, the head away, so they wonder, and they look around, and I just stand there as if nothing's happening. But so I'm going to be in Guildford on the 9th of October with the rover in a session we're going to set up where it'll be in an arena where people can come and drive it themselves. They can send some commands themselves. ourselves, have a drive, and I take it all over the place. I like to say we've done the O2. We do an event called Space Rocks, which is a European Space Agency rock music stroke space themed event that goes on in the O2, and they invited us along to do a little thing with the public there. But I guess one place I've never taken my rover, it's called Yuri, by the way, the rover, is I've never taken it out of the UK. It's never been abroad. And I've been to the CITÉ de l'Espace in Toulouse when I've visited Toulouse, but I've never taken Yuri there. And I'd love to take my rover there. But I know for a fact that the CITÉ de l'Espace in Toulouse is well covered by Gil.
It certainly is. Gil, tell us about what you've done with CITÉ de l'Espace.
First, I think it will interest CITÉ de l'Espace to have a demonstration of your rover, and if I can help. By the way, I think they build a new facility with Mars surface, so to operate a rover. So I think yours could be easily demonstrated. So I will be very happy to support if we can organize something soon.
Sounds good to me.
By the way, CITÉ de l'Espace, in my opinion, but I'm not probably not the best one to evaluate CITÉ de l'Espace. In my opinion, it is the best place in worldwide to discover space. The Ariane 5 full-size mock-up, the Mir space station. Since 2 years, there is also the Apollo 11 lunar module. So a lot of things, not only rocket and satellite, but also their application. So if you have the opportunity, and I think we have a lot of it's a privilege to live in Toulouse and to be able to visit CITÉ de l'Espace. The last thing I did, it was, I would say, something between Airbus activities, my professional activities, and what I do outside during my leisure time. We decided to build a giant footprint representing Neil Armstrong foot on the moon. It's 40 meters long, so, and it can be seen from space. And we use our satellite. So 2 years ago, it was Pléiades, but during last June, we had the opportunity to acquire an image with our new satellite, Pléiades Neo 3. So 30 centimeter resolution. The image is amazing. And I was very happy to see these results because it was a long-lasting effort. And honestly, the image you will find it on the web, but it's a very nice pictures, and it's also a lot of emotion when I saw this image because it's a kind of joke, but Neil Armstrong's foot is 30 centimeters long, nearly 30 centimeters, and it's exactly the resolution of this very high resolution satellite. And in July 2019, there were hundreds of people working on this footprint. It was a huge, it was a pleasure to see that.
Wonderful, wonderful. Yeah, I think we are very lucky. I live in Toulouse as well, and we are lucky to have that. Unfortunately, we don't all have access to that, but we can certainly still go out and talk about space with simpler things like your water rocket. So Inma, you talked about sort of setting this up right in the heart of Seville. How did you actually go about that? How did you organize it with the city?
Okay, in Seville, there is a space forum led by the city council, where there is a representation of companies and institutions, more than 50. Airbus has been since the beginning. Before summer, there is a meeting where all the institutions propose our activities for World Space Week. The City Council coordinates all the activities that will take place during the week and prepares an agenda to give visibility to whoever wants to participate.
I see. Okay, sounds good.
Yeah.
I'd really like to also talk about how the kind of reactions you all get when you're speaking to the kids. John, what's memorable for you?
Oh, I love it. I guess when I go out and do outreach, it's a way for me to recharge my batteries. The energy coming from the young people is a brilliant way to recharge your batteries. If you're finding your work hard, or you've had a really particularly stressful time, going and visiting a school or an event and meeting young people and talking about space and science and engineering really does a great job of recharging my batteries. So it's very symbiotic that everybody gets a great deal out of it. And you know, I don't just do a bit of show and tell. I'd like to get some interaction going as well. So when I take the rover to a school, we talk about ExoMars, the mission to go and explore Mars. We talk a little bit about where Mars is, what the surface of Mars is like, and then we set up a mission. So I'll put the rover in the hall, and the young people will go to a classroom, and they will drive it remotely just using the camera on the front. And they have to send commands one at a time. They can stack commands up, but they can send commands. And I build it into a real scientific scenario. I have a team of what I call scientists, and they can see the video coming from the rover in real time. And I have a team of drivers, and they cannot see the video. They have to rely on instructions coming from the scientists. The scientists have to tell them, move forward 30 centimeters, turn 90 degrees to the right. And they have to work as a team. And I love seeing that demographic, that dynamic build up, that teamwork build up, and giving the young people the opportunities to experiment with teamwork, experiment with verbal instructions, and experiment with things they maybe don't get to do. So it's not just whiz bang excitement in space, it's actually bringing real life scenarios into the classroom. And then of course, when they find the life, or the Groot, little model Groot, I asked them to draw it and label it. So there's some scientific method going on there as well. And it's great to see how they interpret things. And you say, well, you've drawn this thing. What does that mean? Why is it green? And they say, well, it's green because it's camouflaged. And I say, well, what does that mean? And you can see them thinking, and they, well, it means it's trying to hide from something. And I say, so what does that mean? Well, there's something else that wants to eat it. And I go, great. So you found life on this planet. But that also means there's probably something else out there that's even bigger that wants to eat it. So your one discovery has led to a lot of discoveries around it. And I love seeing that, the energy around that, and that scientific method being brought into the classroom and being quite exciting. It's really, really great to see. And it gives you lots of faith in the future that, you know, these young people, they are inspired by science, they are inspired by engineering, and they are inspired by space. And if we can capitalize on that, and give them the little bit of insight into what we do in our jobs, then maybe they'll aspire to be, you know, engineers and scientists in the future. And that's all we really want out of this interaction, is the willingness, the aspiration to come and join us in the space industry. And I love it. And I've got way too many anecdotes to share. I've got way too many stories to share for this amount of time. But I do put things on social media a lot to see what's going on. So just share my interest with the rest of the world. But I'm sure my colleagues out there have got some pretty fabulous stories to tell us as well.
Absolutely. Gil, what about you? What's your favorite moment?
When I'm able to go in the classroom and discuss directly with the teachers and the children. Unfortunately, I'm older. My two daughters left the school since a while, so I have less opportunities now to go there. Try also to perhaps increase the impact of this action by developing tools that can be shared with colleagues, but also directly with teachers, in order to try to maximize the impact and the opportunity to communicate to raise awareness about space activities beyond what I can do directly. I have because it was an important part in my professional life, I have a specific interest for Earth observation activities. So beyond space, satellites, rockets, I'm also very interested in using, for instance, Earth observation imagery to do something in the classroom with children. It can be around geography. So I have tried a lot of things. There are a lot of images available, not only the Pleiad Neo ones that are sold and on a commercial basis, but we built also Sentinel-2, and with Sentinel-2 you can do a lot of things by using an image directly covering your city, your region, and discuss a few things. You can have a lot of things, evolution of the city, but also forest fire, flooding. There are a lot of events that can trigger a lot of activities using Earth observation imagery.
Yeah, I think you're right that I think when you actually say to people, show the kids, you know, this is a picture of where we live, and you can see where it flooded last year, and you can see this happened. It makes a real difference. Inma, what about you? What are your favorite memories?
Okay, I have several. The final activity when we rise all together a toy rocket. It's great to see the smile and happiness in all the children, and not just only children. There is also a boy who is fascinated about the space, and he comes every year dressed like an astronaut. Yeah, we held a drawing contest related to the motto of the World Space Week. And I love the creativity and the curiosity of the children. We keep all this drawing. I think we should make an exhibition in the future. Of course, I meet new colleagues thanks to the World Space Week.
Yeah, meeting new colleagues. Yeah, that's true. I think it does.
The activities and all the big events. Yeah.
Yeah, new colleagues and new children. I think if you do this exhibition, you should do it virtually, and then we can all enjoy it of these drawings.
We will do it.
Excellent. John, what do you think most inspires kids?
Well, that's a tricky question. I mean, we use space as a lever to inspire kids. And someone said to me once, if you could fire dinosaurs into space, you'd have every kid in the world interested. And you know, we're quite lucky to be able to say that we work in space. But for me, it's not just about space. It's about being a human being and being an engineer and having a job that I enjoy. And a lot of our STEM ambassadors in Airbus in the UK support science centres in the UK here, and we're quite well served. So for me, it's giving young people experiences of things to see what they can find for themselves that they enjoy, because maybe they don't get those experiences in school, bringing along new things for them to do, trying new things. Obviously, we can't do everything. So in the UK, there are, on the Association of Science and Discovery Centres website, there's 48 separate science and discovery centres listed for the UK, from Thurso Newton Room up in Scotland, very north of Scotland, right down to the Porthcurno Telegraph Museum in the very southwest. We're very well served. So what I would say is perhaps if you're a parent, a teacher, a mentor, have a look and see if you can find a science centre, a discovery centre, or something near you, and take them along and expose them to all these things and see if they can find their own way and see if they can find out what they like to do. Because I always say, if you can find something you enjoy doing and you can make it your job, you'll be happy forever. And that's kind of what I've done. I've always been building electronics things and taking things apart. And my mum says to me, you're now reversing your childhood. You're putting things back together again rather than taking them apart, which I was doing all the time when I was a kid. I haven't told her that I spend most of my time taking things apart now as well. But it's that kind of thing that if you can find that, and you could again try and get these young people to have those experiences and go out and try these things in the world. You know, not every school has a STEM club, so maybe you can ask a teacher, have you got a STEM club? No. Well, can we set up a STEM club? There's lots of support out there for you if you want to set these things up. I sit on a board with ESRO, the European Space Education Resource Office. You can Google ESRO. Most European Space Agency countries have an ESRO, and it's to create resources that can be used by teachers and parents with young people. So you don't have to create them. They're already created with people from the industry on board to make sure that they are valuable. And they are curriculum linked as well. So teachers can grab them and use them for parts of the curriculum that they want to use. So it's driving this knowledge and getting young people to take those experiences. And I think that's what we try to do, is bring those experiences to the young people and you know, and see them thriving in that environment. And it's really, really satisfying to see.
Yeah, thanks. That's such a great tip. In fact, I think we need to include that on our intranet, your ESRO ideas. So, and Gilles, you have another trick up your sleeve, another model to show us. You believe you've got a paper satellite model that people might be able to use.
Not paper, cardboard.
Cardboard. Cardboard, yeah, paper wouldn't really work.
This one. So
Wow.
we discussed just before the Cité de l'Espace. What I want to highlight that it's you can do a lot of things even if you are far from Cité de l'Espace. It's you don't need expensive things. This satellite is a small mock-up of Pléiade, the first generation, so Earth observation satellite. You can either use cardboard as it is, or try to discuss and to organize a kind of project simulation with in the classroom with the children to decide where you can, when you have to put the solar cells on this face, on this one, and to understand the operations, the way the satellite will acquire the pictures, the energy generation, how we can, what means agility, how can we move a satellite in space without any no things to push on. So again, it's simple but very powerful how you use it. By the way,
Yeah.
this mock-up today, if we say CubeSat, it's not always obvious to understand. This mock-up, 10 centimeter, it's a full size scale 1 CubeSat. It's a very small mock-up of the large Pléiade satellite, but you can also show the range of satellite technologies today, either the rather big satellites with small constellation or very large constellation of very small satellites. So again, cardboard, paper can be done with Lego also. You have a lot of opportunity to work around satellite. I would say the bad news with satellite, and it's also true for engineers, it's nobody sees a satellite. When we build the satellite in Airbus, only a few tens of people have the opportunity to touch it. When it is launched, nobody sees it. So each time you can organize some activities around a satellite simulation, it's a good thing, and it's always very important to show it practically. I'm always surprised to see, it's not obvious, but few people know, for instance, the altitude of the orbit, the size of the satellite. So even giving some input, some basic information on how it works, where it is in space, above or below the International Space Station, it's very, very interesting.
Yeah, great. And I saw a question popping up on the screen. People are asking, is there a template for this satellite? Perhaps, is that something we can share afterwards?
Yes, by the way, there are a lot of paper satellites with, it can be telecommunication satellite, science, Earth observation. This one I know it, so I built it yesterday quickly without the template, but we can share template.
Wonderful, wonderful. And perhaps just a question for you, Inma. Why do you support World Space Week?
Okay, first, we want to generate curiosity for the space, give visibility of how space has improved our life. Also, we want to explain while playing what are the fundamental steps to carry out a project. Also, encourage teamwork to obtain the best result. We apply our Airbus values to the activities like creativity, respect, teamwork. That's why.
Yeah, and I really sense it's such a big team. It's a team thing. You always say, we do this, we do that. There's a big group of you who do this.
Yes, we are a group of maybe 30 people here in Tablada. We formed the group before we go on vacation, before summer, and we come back we prepare all the activities in our spare time.
Yeah, sounds good. Sounds good.
Yeah.
Well, we promised that we would leave some time for questions. So perhaps now, I don't know if we've got any coming in here. There's an awful lot in the chat here. Okay. I think there was going to be some sent through. Well, there's a new message. Okay. Well, whilst we're waiting for some questions to come in, John, you said you were not short of things to talk about. What else can you tell us?
Well, one thing I like to do is set myself up for a fall. And when I'm in a school or an event, I say to someone, you give me a skill and I will link it to something in the space sector or space industry. And I've not failed yet. I'm not asking for comments now, but it's a good fun thing to do. And I guess it highlights the broad spectrum of careers and jobs that are available in the space industry, and not less knitting. This is Woolly Tim. It won't be any surprise to anybody who knows me that I'm a bit of a fan of British ESA astronaut Tim Peake, and it won't surprise you that I'm a space nerd because my mum knitted this for me for my 40th birthday, and it's little Tim Peake, little Woolly Tim, and obviously you can see Big Tim behind me, and very fortunate to have spent some time when Tim was in space knocking around schools in the south with his parents. So me and Tim Peake's dad we called ourselves the Ant and Dec of space outreach, and we went around some schools, and Tim's dad, Nigel, talked about what it was like having a son who's an astronaut and some of Tim's mission and what it was like to go and watch him launch. And then handed over to me, and I talked about the space station where Tim was going to be doing his mission. So it was really good, and it's really fantastic for me to have that experience and to have gone out and spent some time with Tim and his family. So this is the thing that doing outreach and going out into the public and talking about space and engineering, particularly during World Space Week, is such a great thing to do. And it's I would recommend everybody goes and has a go at it. It might seem really hard, might seem really tricky, but there's lots of resources out there for people to do. So if you want to go and do it, just Google resources, go and look on the World Space Week website, and you'll find something. And I guess this is the motto: is doing something is better than doing nothing. Don't think it's too hard. There's something you can do with young people around you to make them excited about science and engineering.
Brilliant. Well, we do have some questions now, and the first one is, could we share information on how to focus on the women in space topic? I know I've certainly, there's plenty out there on the internet, and like I mentioned, there's one of the Airbus presentations that you'll be able to find on the World Space Week website. I think that link's been shared with us, but do any of you want to add to that, how you would recommend focusing on the topic for this year?
Well, I don't want to spend too much time talking over everybody else, but I mentioned before I got nominated for an award for women in defence in the UK, and for me it's not about just targeting girls and women, it's about targeting everybody. But I know there's a number of events that are set up for just girls that they encourage girls to come along to, and if I can focus my attention on going to those events, I can actually try to balance out the people that I see. So it's not primarily boys, it's everybody, and there are some girls only events that I can go to. I'm not really the right demographic perhaps to represent women in engineering, but I guess if I can try and do something, that's better than nothing again. And there's lots of things that are out there. So women are underrepresented in engineering, women are underrepresented in science, women are underrepresented in the astronaut corps and people going to space. It's getting better, but we still need to do way more work. And I think we will slowly begin to snowball with all the things that we're doing. And I've done some things with the British Interplanetary Society around World Space Week this year, and doing an online quiz, and focused on women in space in the past and future, and scientists. So it's doing subtle things that introduce women into engineering and science without actually coming in with a big steamroller and saying, right, it's for you. Because at the end, everybody's going to choose what they want to do. And we always encourage our graduates, all of our graduates in defence and space, to become STEM ambassadors themselves. So we do try to put the right people out there in front of young girls. We put a female STEM ambassador in front of them, so there's someone they can relate to, and that is really, really powerful.
Yeah, no, maybe Inma, do you have a special activity for this year's theme for women in space?
Yes, we are going to a school. We have selected for a school, and we are going to do a presentation about women in space. We had the presentation already in our ambassador page. I don't know if you have seen it. Yes.
Great. And a practical question for you, Gil. How do you attach the bike pump to the bottle?
Anticipated a question on women, but it's something else. No, that's the tricky part. I don't know if you see it. It's a small copper ring with a specific profile, and you have here the rubber nozzle, and you plug it inside. You can build something else. You can use other type of connections. I recommend to try and to experiment even with simple things. You can also build a device to maintain the rocket on the launch pad until you want to launch the rocket. Because with this device, the rocket will lift off when it wants. You do not control the exact liftoff time. If you use something to maintain the rocket and to trigger it when you want, it's interesting. I will not enter the detail, but there are many. You will find a lot of resources on the web. I would like one of the organization in France, Planète Science, which is a very interesting non-profit organization whose objective is to work with children and science. And if you go on their website, you will find a lot of things.
Ah, that's a good tip. Thank you.
Coming back to perhaps to the gender issue, that's also why I think it's very important to work with the schools since the youngest age. When you have 50% women, and for me it's still a big question mark. Why do we have less than 20% women in engineering activities? So when I go in the classroom, I don't make any difference between the guys but I hope that showing that the things are not mysterious, that if you want to work in this type of activity, it is possible. It is not only engineering, someone said before teamwork, but building a satellite, it means also marketing and sales, legal activities, finance, and engineering. Yes, we need engineers, but you can also perhaps have a wider vision of space careers when you highlight the teamwork and the fact that you need a lot of skills, various skills, to be able to design, to build, and to sell this type of products.
Yeah.
By the way, just last figures. Do you know how many astronauts are women? It's 11%. 11%, and it's stable. No progress since a few years, despite the last women, and very nice women, European, but also US one. It's not at the same level than engineering in the large space company, but I think that all what we can do at school is useful. If we wait the time when we hire people, when we have in our companies, it's too late. We have to fight again this difference a long time before, and it means some things to be done in the early stage.
Yeah, I think that's true. It's really important to capture their imagination at a really young age, because they start getting ideas of what they might want to do as a job. And so you're right. I think it's key to get in when they're still fairly young. So I mean, I remember when I went into my children's school and they were 5 or 6, and you can still tell stories about space. It's about just finding something that is meaningful for the right age. So there's a question.
I have only one recommendation. So Space Week is an opportunity to start. So let's go. If you have children, you organize something. It can be this mock-up. It can be something else, showing what you do in your professional life. But you can easily do something.
Yeah, I really like the solar system race idea that Inma told us about as well. But I've got a question here about people are saying, have any of you experienced any difficulties when you've organized these events? And if so, how did you overcome them?
Well, actually, that ties in with another question I've seen on there with regards to photographs at school. And someone said, how do I approach this? And as much as I'd love to be able to take photos of everything I do and share it online, unfortunately, with the schools, you just can't. And I always I've replied in text in the chat, but I always let schools take the lead. And my policy is I don't take any photos when I'm on a school site, because it's just opens you up for too much risk. So let the school take photos. Say to the school, you take as many photos as you want, and afterwards maybe say, if you've got any photos that you are happy to release, then send them to me, and be honest about what you would like to do with them. Because for me, it's less about maybe showcasing what we do and more about actually being there and doing it. But it's always very good to showcase what you're doing and be able to share that with other people to show what you can do. But you've got to be very, very sensitive on that topic, and that's it's perhaps one of the most difficult things is being able to do these things and being able to not have anything to share with anybody else and say, look what I did, but be happy that what you did was fine. And just because there's no photos and there's no record of it doesn't mean it's any less valid.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Have you come across any difficulties, Gil?
I think each time I had the opportunity to do some presentation or some hands-on activity at school, the next want to visit our site. So the difficulty is that it's difficult to go to this second step and to show what we do. So nearly impossible to organize, in particular with young people. So it can be a kind of frustration. That's also why Cité de l'Espace is a good that after the
we're losing your connection there, Gil. We're losing.
Sorry.
Quick, reboot the satellite.
Yes, quick.
No, I hope, I don't know if you hear me, I hope that after the COVID crisis, we'll be able to organize again some welcome days for at least the children of our staff, but hopefully perhaps be able to welcome a wider public to show what we do.
Yeah, that actually links into another question about whether Airbus is going to organise virtual events open to the public. So I don't think we can take any commitments on that now, but I think that is a good idea that maybe we can look at for next year. There's another question here about what major is...
Mary,
yes.
Perhaps, sorry to interrupt you, but perhaps an opportunity is to use also the media, the social networks, for instance, social media to publish things targeting these young people directly, and not only the professionals.
Yeah, we can certainly look into that. And there's a specific question here about...
I don't think it is the first priority, but I have a lot of ideas.
Excellent, excellent. There's a question, a question here about studies. Maybe we have budding astrophysicists in our audience today, because they asked what major is closer to space science and astronomy? Is it mechanical engineering or electrical engineering? Maybe John, you can take that one.
Of course, that's a Another tricky one, I guess, is which is closer. Well, with regards to mechanical engineering and electrical engineering, I'm an electrical engineer, but a spacecraft requires both. But it also requires maths. It also requires physics. It also requires other topics. There's quite a spacecraft is quite a holistic view of education, and I do not try to recommend people to do specific training when I'm doing these kind of seminars. I just say to people, try to do something that you enjoy doing. Don't be too specific. If you don't enjoy doing it, then don't do it, because you're going to be setting yourself for a fall. If you enjoy electronics, then do electronics. And if you enjoy mechanical engineering, do that, because there are so many skills involved with space that actually you're not limiting your future by picking a certain thing. Maybe if you choose to do hairdressing, perhaps, but there are still astronauts still need their haircut. But pick something you want to do, pick something you enjoy, pick something you're passionate about, and that should see you good. And actually, even if you don't drift towards space or engineering or science, it'll drift you towards something perhaps else that fits your skills and things that you enjoy doing.
Yeah, thank you. Well, that does sounds good advice. I'm not sure we've got any more questions, but I had a question for you, Gil. I believe you use an orange to represent the Earth. Tell us about your orange.
I have it.
Aha.
Oh, blue planet. I have a blue one also, but no, this one, it's not always obvious to understand the Earth observation satellite operation. So for instance, the orbit. So this kind of small, this orange, I use it because it's easy to find, to show also what is, in this case, a sun-synchronous orbit. So I'm always surprised and try to find simple things, simple tools to explain things that looks like very complex. But if you have what I call hands-on experiments, it becomes simpler. And you can start with this orange, and then at the end of the discussion, perhaps you will use Excel or another simulation tools. And here you have the link between the first questions, the awareness part, and when we start to do science, mathematics, and so on. And it becomes obvious. I saw a lot of young people trying to understand with the rocket, for instance, why the altitude of my rocket is lower than the second one. Explain that there is the truss, the mass, the drag. It's complex, it's aerodynamics, but if you have the chance the opportunity to touch it directly by seeing your rocket flying, it becomes much more concrete. And honestly, it's very powerful. I'm always impressed. I know these tools, but I'm always impressed that young children attention is caught and they can stay with you during hours. Yeah.
Well, I think it's really been fascinating listening to you all. And I hope that we have given the audience some great ideas to get you started on how to do your own version of World Space Week. I think we've covered all questions. I don't know if any of you are following the chat and I've missed anything, but I think we're basically at the close. And Mariska, you were just going to say a few final words, I think.
Thank you so much, Mary, Inma, Gil, and John. This was really inspirational. I know I myself am definitely inspired, and it's really great to hear all your stories from the schools. Even we on our end, we're always happy to hear them because it's just so rewarding. And in regards to the Women in Space team, I think it's absolutely crucial that we talk about it. And we don't want to just talk about women in space, but about gender equality when it comes to the space sector. And I do think it is super important that it's not just women supporting women, it also has to be men supporting women and vice versa. And of course, that means disabled women, women of color, from different regions. It's a number of people that are at disadvantage, and I like to think that enabling them to participate in events like World Space Week gives something to people, offers an opportunity, and if we can manage to create such opportunities, I think we've done something great with our lives. So thank you again. Thank you for creating these opportunities for people. And everyone who participated today, please register your events at our website, in our calendar. We're looking forward to see what you're gonna come with. And yeah, lots of success. Congratulations to everyone for organizing such wonderful things. Have a lovely day.